The nepotism thing is ridiculous. It's like no one ever got a television show because their mother was like, you know, an alternative art figure in the 1980s and 90s. Like, that's not how it works. I wish that's how it worked. I didn't grow up in a house that watched news. I didn't even really know who Brian Williams was. I thought Zosh's name was Zosiah Mame. I like didn't even realize. Jemima's my best friend from, you know, 6th grade.
Steven Spielberg's daughter, Destry, is directing it. Stephen King's son, Owen, is writing it. And Sean Penn's son, Hopper, is starring in it.
Hollywood's a meritocracy, right? Too easy. People working, creating, everyone has their path. Wish them all the best. I do, without fail, but I also think it's important that we acknowledge those paths. I would bet they have all faced challenges, different than those with no access to the industry. Showbiz, as we all know, is pretty rough, and ultimately is a meritocracy. I don't for a second doubt that they've all faced challenges. They're human. I simply reject the claim that the industry is, in the short term or long term, a meritocracy. If it were, how do you explain the utter lack of diversity behind the camera? Lack of merit? I'm saying that untalented people don't really last if they get a break because of who they are or know or are related to. We both know plenty of unqualified people who manage to stay employed for reasons other than their talent, though both of us have enough decorum not to name names. Hollywood folks tend to believe that it's a pure meritocracy and their success is an indication of their merit alone.
A lot of people think that, and they talk about nepotism, which I think is so ridiculous considering it's obviously not true, because I've auditioned for so many things and never gotten the part. Also, it's like, you know, maybe someone could get you one part, but they can't really get you 10 parts.
I'm back, baby. I took a break, in case you're wondering where I was. Oh, you weren't? Never mind then. Recently, the cow and I were watching a film called After We Fell, which is the 3rd of the After film franchise. They are films based on books, based on Wattpad fan fiction, about a girl named Tessa who falls in love with a guy who looks nothing like Harry Styles but is supposed to be Harry Styles, except his name is Hardin, as in Hardin. He's British and he is named Hardin, which is the least realistic thing about it. Because here in Great Britain, our kids' names aren't silly, our place names are. Anyways, I did some Googling and it turns out that the leads are related to some famous actors. The actress who plays Tessa is the sister of Catherine Langford, and Hardin, sorry, it's not a real name, is Rafe and Joseph Fiennes' nephew. And this is nothing out of the ordinary. Pretty much any film show you watch, you'll go, ooh, who's that up-and-coming actor? And then you'll find out that they're related to someone in the industry. And even though it's not inherently bad, it's so ubiquitous, it becomes annoying. And that's what today's video is about. I'm going to talk about how Hollywood nepotism, yeah, I said it, is actually a bad thing, and as amazingly obvious as it is to non-industry people, people in Hollywood will still look us in the eye and tell us it is not a thing. But before I do, let me introduce myself. My name is Tara Mooney, and this is the only channel on YouTube where all videos are written and produced by a cow. She couldn't be in the video today because she's setting off fireworks in our local park, but if you like and subscribe, she might appear in the next one. Anyways, I need to pay for food and bills. The cow needs grass to eat. And you know, grass doesn't grow on trees. I'm thrilled to announce that today's video is sponsored by Likewise again. Likewise is a free app where you can share and get recommendations for films, TV shows, podcasts, and books. You set up a profile and you like and dislike things, and through algorithmic magic, the app recommends new stuff for you. There's these things called Today cards, which are daily recommendations you get on your feed, which you can either swipe away or save. You can also get actual human beings suggesting you things, with curated recommendation lists. The official Likewise account makes great lists all the time, and you know what I appreciate? The specificity. I don't know about you, but I don't just say to myself, "Ooh, I fancy a rom-com." I say, "I fancy a wedding rom-com." Or to be even more specific, "I fancy a rom-com with the fake relationship trope." Honestly, that one is my favourite. I love how it's a whole trope, yet has that actually ever happened in real life? Except when someone's trying to get a green card. So the list feature is my absolute favourite, and I've made a list of my favourite family affairs, as in shows, movies made by people who are related. Make sure to download the Likewise app for free and follow me at Tara Mooknee. And send me your recommendations by going to onlikewise.com/Mooknee too. Thank you Likewise for sponsoring today's video. So I'm gonna be that guy and provide some definitions. Nepotism, the practice among those with power or influence of favouring relatives or friends, especially by giving them jobs. Nepotism, the act of using your power or influence to get good jobs or unfair advantages for members of your own family. The second definition is particularly interesting because of the use of the word unfair. This seems to be the definition people most commonly think of when the word nepotism comes up, which explains why people in Hollywood get so damn defensive whenever it comes up, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, here's a harsh truth. A lot of your faves, and a lot of my faves, have gotten where they are through their connections. Wait, before you throw things, I'm not saying that they're untalented. Nepotism doesn't cancel out talent. If someone is talented and creates good art, you can still acknowledge that they had an unfair advantage when getting started. You can say these people are super talented, but if they weren't who they were, they'd be waiting tables. Like many of my actor friends who are extremely talented but need to work in order to survive. Speaking of, let me explain why nepotism is such a staple in Hollywood. So, what is nepotism in practice? Here's some ways it happens. A direct act of nepotism is a director, producer, casting their family member, child, spouse, sibling, whatever. Then we've got people with name recognition. If your surname is Coppola, Barrymore, Fonda, Baldwin, that association with star power will set off light bulbs in agents' casting directors' minds. Then we've got the most insidious kind, where you've got the connections to get in, but that isn't evident at face value. You might change your surname so you don't live under your family's shadow, but in the film industry, everyone knows everyone, so they know who your parents are and that you are their child. Your dad is a film producer, your mum's an actor, and you don't explicitly get parts given to you because of that, but that's how you get into the audition. The hardest part of gaining roles is getting in that damn audition room. So why does nepotism work so well in Hollywood in particular? I would argue it's equally powerful in politics and journalism, but to stay on topic, nepotism flourishes in Hollywood because rich people can buy access. If a producer is funding your project and their kid auditions, well, then there's gatekeeping. Auditions for major projects are mostly private. So unless you're with a renowned agent or you know someone on board, you're not getting in that room. Oh, which reminds me of networking, which is a cursed word. This might seem obvious, but nepotism is bad. I'm not naive about the fact that the world isn't a meritocracy. In any field of life, it's not what you know, but who you know. But the thing is, when Bernard and Son's bathroom store down the road is a family business, they don't hide it. Whereas in Hollywood, they look us dead in the eye and tell us that it's all about talent and hard work. When it comes to art, it's important to have creatives from all walks of life, blah 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 blah. You know the drill. So when Hollywood talks about a lack of diversity, I just think, well, if you didn't make it some exclusive club, that might be a good first step. Make it accessible. I found an article providing defenses of nepotism, and they made an argument along the lines of, we don't have enough women in the industry, and nepotism is a way for women to get in. A similar principle is at work with women in Hollywood. The number of major female filmmakers working today is famously low. 4.4% of Hollywood's top 100 movies in any given year are directed by women, which makes Sofia Coppola's career all the more significant. She may have gotten her entree into the industry via her dad, but any entree at all for women at this point should be welcome. Is the bar really that low? The only way you'll let women in is if they're related to someone powerful? Is that good enough for you? When it premiered, HBO's Girls called another widespread nepotism freakout, and yet look at who people were freaking out about. Young women directing, writing, and starring in a hit original series. Sure, the show's existence may be in part due to who Lena Dunham's, Zosha Mamet's, Alison Williams, and Jemima Kirk's parents are, but that's more a commentary on the barriers that still exist for women in the entertainment industry than it is on the value of the work they create. There's so much wrong with this, so let me get my grubby little mitts over it and unpack it. This is similar to Lena Dunham's defense against accusations of nepotism.
Not to be the girl who cried misogyny every day, but people are always looking for reasons why women are successful. They're like, oh, it couldn't just be that those girls were talented and got a part in a TV show. It's the same thing as, oh, she was fucking the producer. It's like, it's just a way that people talk about female success.
Why can't you support women? It's a very girl boss, white feminist, and frankly shallow argument. So you've got 4 people in lead roles whose parents are successful in entertainment and the arts. Therefore, it's only natural that people would point to it as an example of how prevalent nepotism is. And I don't think nepotism and a lack of access just applies to women. A great deal of male actors are nepotism babies. Now, you could make the argument that women are targeted more with these criticisms about nepotism, but at some point we need to talk about the issue at hand. That doesn't change the fact that film and TV is so inaccessible, nearly completely inaccessible if you don't have connections. And I'm sick of people in the industry ignoring the problems that are blaringly obvious and instead saying to actors, make your own work.
If you can do it, if you can find ways, there's YouTube. There are all kinds of ways to get your information out there.
1, they're actors. Stop asking them to also be writers, producers, directors, costume designers, contortionists. 2, you know that costs money, right? And that's what I mean when I talk about buying access. So even if you don't have connections per se, you're still more likely to succeed if you've got money. That's why in the UK film industry, or at least in my opinion, nepotism is a problem, but it seems to be here that the bigger issue is class and wealth. Actors who went to Oxbridge and were privately educated are vastly overrepresented in the industry. In fact, Amanda Mariana made a great video about this, so if you want to learn more about that, here it is. I found a really interesting quote from Lily Collins, daughter of Phil Collins and Jill Tavelman. When I first met with agents, I was asked, well, what makes you so special? Everyone in LA is a cousin or daughter of someone. At the beginning, my father was the most interesting thing about me. Now I've done 8 films, it's an afterthought. I get kids who say, oh, I love your movie, but my mum loves your dad. It's really nice to be able to share that with him, but it doesn't define who I am career-wise. And there it is. Because the industry is so gatekept, the vast majority of people that make it in had some connection along the way. And because this is so normalized, people in the system feel like it's a level playing field, but it isn't, because there's thousands of people who are just as good as you, perhaps even better, who won't even get the chance. And I think that's why people get so defensive when asked about it, because kind of rightfully they're like, so did everyone else. Why are you singling me out? I really struggled to find examples of people being frank about how their family connections got them in.
I'm a product of nepotism. That's how I got into my dad.
I get that the idea of proving yourself and always living up to a name would cause some kind of mental turmoil, but it's really hard to have sympathy when you compare it to people never being able to pursue their real passions or talents because they've literally just got to work to survive. Most people aren't saying, don't be an actor. What they're saying is, be honest with us. No one is asking you to be ashamed and hide away from it. In fact, please be upfront about it. I would almost have no issue if someone was just like, yeah, I got where I am because of my dad. I am extremely lucky. That being said, I work hard. I think I'm really pleasant to work with, and I hope you enjoy the work that I create. If they said that, I'd be like, fine, power to ya.
They talk about nepotism, which I think is so ridiculous considering it's obviously not true.
Showbiz, as we all know, is pretty rough and ultimately is a meritocracy.
The fact that we're still discussing if this is the thing, we know that they know, right? It's not possible to subconsciously manipulate these structures and find yourself in an audition. Ultimately, people don't want to admit that they do something that harms others. If you admit that this elitist structure benefits you, then people will quite rightfully turn around and say, well, what are you gonna do about it? And then you might have to respond to that. Perhaps even do something about it. And that's too much effort. So I guess I should offer some solutions. The thing is, I just don't expect this problem to be fixed anytime soon. This is a bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to clarify that I don't think it's inherently immoral to work with family. It's an issue when people have unfair advantages, and even if they have talent and they work hard, I think they have a moral duty to acknowledge that advantage. And that's my major issue. They just really don't want to acknowledge it. Working with family or having multiple family members be famous is not inherently bad. In fact, it can be great. I mean, you couldn't get me to choose between the Fanning sisters. They're both exquisite. And the best comedies in the past few years have been produced by siblings. For example, Stath Lets Flats has Jamie and Natasha Demetriou, which takes inspiration from their Cypriot upbringing. This Country, which is a BBC mockumentary series about rural youths, is written by and stars Daisy May Cooper and Charlie Cooper. These shows are both semi-autobiographical and the characters are relatives, so the fact that the actors are siblings provides that necessary chemistry. And here's the thing, these are examples of actors in their breakout projects, which they created and wrote themselves. There's a big difference between this scenario and one where, I don't know, say 20 years down the line, Daisy May Cooper is a household name, and I don't know, she uses her connections to get her child an audition for Edgar Wright's new movie. And I'm not saying she shouldn't be allowed to do that, but it's a clearer example of nepotism because in that hypothetical scenario, we're seeing someone use their name to get family ahead of others, which they wouldn't get otherwise, right? As opposed to collaborating on a project which happens to become successful. I'm rooting for these people. As far as I'm concerned, they're comedy geniuses, and my life would be worse without these shows. But anyways, that's all I have to say on the matter. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And instead of doing a subscription pet shout out this week, I just wanted to share the fact that because I'd been off for a while, it was Siggy's birthday last month. She's now 3 years old. They grow up too fast. She's such a little lady. And funnily enough, she's getting much more male attention in the park. She's getting humped left, right and centre. And yes, she is spayed. I don't know what's going on. She hasn't got any sexier. She's always been gorgeous. No. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your patience. I just took a break because I really needed it. I wanted to come back with one of my epic epic long videos, but those require me to do a lot of reading, and I just thought that the longer I leave it, the worse I would feel. So I just wanted to come back and say hi. So hi. And in case you didn't notice, I'm back in my room. I posted a poll about this because I was curious to see if you preferred the more fancy backdrops or me in my room, and I was really heartened to see that the majority of you like this setting. You also miss it here, and honestly, the past few months I've really felt the pressure to make every video an epic long video essay, and that is unsustainable. It's bad for me creatively and it's bad for me mentally. So every now and then I'm gonna come back in here and make more chill, ranty videos. They tend to get less views, but fuck it. Views schmooze. Oh, by the way, I have a podcast, so if you miss me between videos, I'm there every week. And look what I got Siggy. She's more on brand than the cow herself. If you have any video ideas, share them in the comments. I wanna know what you wanna see. And if you like the video, give it a like, because one like equals one mute button on a Lena Dunham video. Ooh, tea. Ooh, I need a cup of tea. Oh, if you got this far, share the tea emoji in the comments. Tea party. I mean like a tea party where we drink tea and eat cake, not the weird libertarian political party. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Dog bless, extra thank you to my patrons, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Also, just want to say thanks again to Likewise for sponsoring this video. Make sure to click the link in the description to download the Likewise app and check out my recommendations. It really helps me out when you check out my sponsors, and it, most importantly, helps out the cow. Okay, thank you.